Previously on LifeAfter, Rick and his team braved the harsh conditions of Perilous Peak. From battling infected spiders, zombies, and the massive Sequence Defender, to dismantling Heimdall's and defeating the terrifying Skull, Rick pushed his limits to rescue the revenants trapped in the Snow Village. The battle escalated at the Origin Temple, where Rick faced the deadly vigil brought to life by a mysterious man who vanished into the shadows. After a fierce fight, Rick emerged victorious, but at a cost. Snow falls softly as Rick steps out of the Origin Temple, the heavy stone doors grinding shut behind him. His boots leave deep imprints along the winding path back to camp, the cold biting at his exposed skin. Each step feels heavier than the last, the weight of countless battles dragging him down. By the time he reaches the camp, the world feels distant, muted, as if he's staring through a foggy lens. He crosses the empty courtyard, his hand brushing along the frost-covered walls. The silence is suffocating. At the edge of the camp, a hanging bench creaks gently in the wind, snow gathering on its surface. Rick lowers himself onto it, the metal groaning beneath his weight. He leans forward, elbows resting on his knees, his fingers loosely interlocked. His eyes fix on the horizon, though nothing seems to hold his focus. Desperation lingers in the air. Rick exhales slowly, watching the plume of his breath dissolve into the cold. His heart pounds, not from exertion, but from the gnawing emptiness that follows every fight. For a moment, he presses his palms over his eyes, trying to block out the flashes of memory that claw at the edges of his mind. Blurred vision distorts the camp around him. The distant silhouettes of buildings waver like shadows, flickering between the present and the haunting echoes of battles past. The sound of rifle fire hums faintly in his ears, though he knows it's not real. He remembers the faces, the strangers he fought alongside, the friends he couldn't save. The grave expressions of those who depended on him. He squeezes his hands into fists, nails biting into his palms to ground himself. But it doesn't help. Snow continues to fall, dusting his shoulders and hair. The cold seeps deeper into his bones, but Rick doesn't move. He's not sure how long he sits there, minutes, maybe hours. The world shifts when a soft, familiar voice breaks through the stillness. That voice of Sparrow took him into Island Reef via fast travel. Rick steps onto the rocky, windswept shore, his boots sinking slightly into the damp sand beneath him. Sparse jagged rocks line the coast, and the mist clings low to the ground. Waves crash softly in the distance, but the unsettling quiet is broken by the faint echo of gunfire. A distress call crackles in Rick's earpiece. Ingrid to all units, we're pinned down. 6 infected inbound, requesting backup immediately. Rick's grip tightens on the handle of his fungus flamethrower. Sparrow, standing nearby, catches his gaze. As they sprint across the uneven sand and jagged rocks, the outline of Ingrid and her 3 soldiers emerges from the mist. The group is cornered against a large cluster of boulders, struggling to hold back 6 approaching zombies. Rick doesn't slow down. Flames roar from his weapon as he sprays a wide arc, scorching the sand beneath the infected and setting the zombies ablaze. They writhe and fall, smoke curling into the overcast sky. Ingrid lowers her rifle, stepping forward with a nod of gratitude. You never disappoint. Rick eyes the horizon, where a faint silhouette of an island lab juts from the mist. What happened here? He asks. Ingrid gestures toward the distant lab. Lab's gone dark. They were experimenting with something dangerous. It didn't stay contained. She points to a nearby transmitter tower, partially collapsed on the rocks. We need to reactivate the signal transmitter to call for evac. The control panel's somewhere near the island, but the path's crawling with infected. Rick readies his gear, eyes set on the rough, rocky path leading to the transmitter. Ingrid steps forward, pointing at a sleek advanced motorbike nearby, its large wheels equipped with hydroblades designed to skim over water. This is your ride, Ingrid says, glancing at Rick and Sparrow. That island's surrounded by water mines. You'll need to navigate carefully. Rick approaches the bike, running his hand over the metal frame. Sparrow swings into the back seat without a word. You sure this thing can handle the trip? Rick asks. Ingrid smirks. If you don't hit anything. The bike roars to life. With a flick of a switch, the hydroblades deploy, lifting the vehicle slightly above the water. Rick grips the handles tightly as the bike accelerates forward, skimming across the surface. Water mines bob gently ahead, their faint lights flickering ominously beneath the waves. Watch it! Sparrow shouts as Rick swerves hard to the right, narrowly missing a mine. They weave through the hazardous path, the reflection of the distant island growing larger with every passing second. The moment the tires hit solid ground, the hydroblades retract, and the bike transitions smoothly onto a narrow, sandy path. Jagged cliffs press close on either side, leaving only a thin strip of road for them to navigate. Rick pushes forward, guiding the bike through the winding mountain path. Overgrowth and sand whip past as they climb higher. Finally, the lab comes into view. The once modern lab structure is now overrun with twisted vines, rusted gates, and infected growths. The main gate is secured by thick wooden planks, hastily nailed shut. Rick dismounts, giving the barrier a hard push, but it doesn't budge. Lock tight, Sparrow mutters. Rick pulls a grappling rope from his belt. Then we go over. Rick secures the rope and scales the wall, landing softly on the other side. From above, Sparrow watches his back as Rick scans the overgrown courtyard. The faint sounds of movement echo from inside the lab. The place is crawling, Rick whispers. He steps forward, ready to face whatever lies within. Rick steps into a wide, open area, sand and debris scattered across the ground. The massive lab complex looms ahead, its rusted walls broken and weathered. To his right, a large stone wall runs alongside the perimeter of the facility, with a narrow gap between the structures. The air is thick with tension, and the unsettling sound of distant growls echoes from the shadows. Sparrow's voice crackles over the radio again. Rick, something's definitely moving up ahead. Be careful. Rick tightens his grip on the G3 automatic rifle, scanning the area. Suddenly, a large shadow moves at the far end of the open space between the building and the wall. A grotesque figure emerges, it's the mad pharmacist, towering over Rick. The mad pharmacist lumbers forward, an infected giant in a torn lab suit with 2 cylinders strapped to his back. His face is hidden behind a cracked respirator mask, but his twisted form and massive frame make him an immediate threat. Rick raises his rifle. Without warning, the mad pharmacist charges at Rick, raised like a battering ram. Rick fires his G3, the gunshots ringing through the open area. The pharmacist stumbles, but his massive body absorbs the bullets. The infected barely flinches, and in one sweeping motion, Rick dives to the side, narrowly avoiding the impact. The ground trembles with the force of the blow. Rick rolls back to his feet and fires again, targeting the pharmacist's body, trying to bring him down. A few more shots land, but the giant infected is relentless, charging forward again. Rick's eyes narrow. The cylinders on the pharmacist's back are starting to leak. Rick aims for them, taking a deep breath before pulling the trigger. Bang! One of them explodes, releasing a toxic cloud of gas that momentarily clouds the area. The pharmacist staggers back, choking and disoriented. Rick takes his chance. With swift precision, he aims for the remaining cylinder and fires. Bang! The explosion sends the pharmacist crashing to the ground. The toxic vapor swirls around the area as the giant's massive body crumples in the dust. Rick stands still, scanning the area, ready for anything else that might come. Sparrow's voice breaks through the radio. Rick, what's your status? Is he down? Rick exhales slowly, lowering his rifle. Yeah. He's out. He moves silently, keeping his G3 automatic rifle ready, eyes scanning for any signs of danger. There are First intel, he finds a data pad on a desk in a corner of a dimly lit office. He quickly retrieves the file and checks its contents, coordinates for a secret location. Before he can process more, a groan sounds from down the hall, and an infected shuffles past. Rick killed it. Second intel, he moves deeper into the building, past old shelves and broken equipment. In a back room, Rick finds a lock safe. After a few moments, he manages to open it, retrieving another piece of intel, a chemical formula, likely for some kind of virus-enhancing agent. Rick glances around and notices more infected moving near the entrance to the next room. He avoids them, slipping quietly around their path, moving toward the final piece of intel. Third intel, the final piece of intel is in a room that once served as a research lab, its monitors now dead and its equipment rusted. On the far desk, a glowing USB drive catches Rick's eye. He grabs it quickly and scans the data. It seems to be a final report on the virus and a possible antidote. As Rick pockets the last piece of intel, a loud crash echoes from behind him. A horde of zombies emerges from the shadows, drawn by his presence. Their growls fill the air, and he realizes he's been surrounded. Rick reaches the edge of the building, where he spots several zombies near a water source. They're slow and clumsy, stumbling around the area, and Rick doesn't waste a second. He draws his G3, taking aim as he approaches. Boom! The first zombie falls, its head exploding from the blast. He reloads quickly and shoots again, clearing two more zombies that had been inching closer. A third shot drops a crawler in the water, sending a splash as it sinks. The remaining zombies seem more alert now, drawn to the sounds of gunfire. Rick knows he needs to move quickly. He turns to run along the shore, jumping over rocks and debris to avoid being caught. As he moves, he fires a few more rounds to clear the way, pushing through the waves of infected and making sure they don't catch him off guard. Once the immediate threat is cleared, Rick takes a moment to catch his breath, scanning the horizon to ensure no more zombies are closing in. He knows his next move is critical, and with the intel he's gathered, he's one step closer to understanding the full scope of the virus and what it might mean for everyone's survival. Rick stands at the edge of the infected water, the surface thick with a murky, toxic layer. Broken planks and scattered supply boxes float across the water, the only path to the experimental base's interior. The water itself seems alive with the contaminated ripples of infected creatures below, waiting for the slightest disturbance to break the surface. Without hesitation, Rick steps forward, jumping from one floating plank to the next, his boots splashing against the water, but he keeps his balance, his grip on the flamethrower steady. With every jump, he's cautious, knowing that one wrong move could mean falling into the dangerous, contaminated waters where the zombies lurk beneath. He lands on a floating crate, quickly making his way across. The zombies, attracted by the noise, rise from the water, their grotesque forms pushing through the floating debris toward him. As they approach, Rick raises his flamethrower and ignites a stream of fire directly at the water's surface. The flames spread quickly, burning the water's surface, sending the zombies into an agonizing frenzy as they are scorched by the fire. The zombies in the water struggle, but Rick keeps the flamethrower aimed in front of him, clearing the immediate threat as he continues jumping from one piece of debris to another. He watches his footing, taking calculated steps to avoid the infected water while keeping the zombies at bay. The sound of flames crackling fills the air, as each zombie that tries to emerge from the water is set alight. As Rick nears the final plank near the elevator room, a larger group of zombies breaks free from the depths, attempting to swarm him. But Rick is ready. He turns the flamethrower's nozzle and unleashes a wide arc of fire, engulfing the zombies in flames. They screech, writhing in pain, before collapsing into the water, sinking back into the darkness. Finally, Rick reaches the elevator room, the path ahead clear but the infected water still threatening behind him. With a last glance over his shoulder, he steps into the elevator area. As the flames die down and the last zombie sinks beneath the surface, Rick enters the basement elevator. The elevator doors close, sealing him off from the infected water and the horrors of the base, but his journey is far from over. The elevator doors slowly slide open, revealing an eerie glass undersea tunnel, where the faint light from above barely illuminates the murky water. Rick and Sparrow step cautiously inside, their every movement echoing off the walls. They know something ominous is lurking just beyond the glass, but they can't yet see it clearly. The silence is palpable, broken only by the faint hum of the elevator's machinery. The tunnel leads them into a giant chamber, its walls reinforced with thick glass. Inside, they see the hulking form of a giant octopus, its massive limbs squirming in a desperate, almost violent motion. The creature is trapped within its glass prison, but the tension is building. Rick can feel it. Something is wrong. The creature is too still, too quiet. Without warning, a deafening crack echoes through the chamber as the glass shatters. The octopus, now free, bursts from its cage in a torrent of water and broken glass. Its mutated, grotesque body thrashes violently, causing the walls to shake. The creature's long, ink-black tentacles swipe at the air, smashing anything in its path. Rick reacts instantly. With his G3 rifle in hand, he fires a quick series of shots at the creature's exposed underbelly, but the octopus is too swift. Its tentacles whip toward him, and Rick ducks to avoid the strike, his heart pounding in his chest. Sparrow moves to the side, keeping her distance, but Rick knows this fight will only end when the octopus is dead. The creature roars in fury as it charges at Rick, its tentacles crashing into the walls with tremendous force. Rick quickly adjusts, firing his G3 rifle with precision, aiming for the octopus' soft spots. Each shot echoes through the chamber, hitting its mark, but the octopus is a relentless beast, its armored body shrugs off most of the hits. With every step, the octopus gets closer. The creature reaches out, its tentacles slamming down near Rick's position. He narrowly avoids the attack, ducking just in time to fire a few more rounds into the octopus' exposed eye. The beast thrashes in pain, but still, it doesn't fall. His time hitting one of the octopus tendrils where it connects to the main body. The tentacle flails wildly, and the creature shrieks in agony. Rick uses the opening to unload a rapid barrage of shots into the octopus limbs, aiming for the base of the tentacles, trying to sever them. Finally, the octopus, now severely wounded, collapses onto the ground. But before Rick can catch his breath, the creature makes one last, desperate lunge, reaching for him with its massive tentacle. With lightning-fast reflexes, Rick dives out of the way and fires a final, decisive shot. The bullet pierces the creature's vital organs, and the beast lets out one last, guttural screech before falling still. The giant octopus lies dead, its massive form crumpled on the shore, its tentacles twitching for the last time. Rick stands over it, his G3 rifle still smoking, his breath heavy from the intense battle. He looks over at Sparrow, who gives him a silent nod of acknowledgement. The chaos is over, for now. But as Rick stands there, his eyes scanning the wreckage, he knows that this battle was just one small victory in a much larger war. The giant octopus lies motionless on the shore, and Rick lowers his G3 rifle, catching his breath. Sparrow stands beside him, her gaze fixed on the horizon. "It's over," she says, but Rick knows better. "We've won this round, but the fight's not over," he replies, looking at the ruined lab. With a deep breath, Rick shoulders his rifle, ready for whatever comes next. The camera pulls back as the sun sets, signaling the calm before another storm. The battle isn't over. What's waiting for Rick next? Find out in episode 10. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell for more.